Tacky Talk Time. State Representative Tacky Chan of Quincy is joining us mobily today. Tacky, you're on the road.
I am indeed on the road. We've done this a few times to show that my commitment to QATV and Joe Catalano knows no bounds as far as I can. And we've done this in the car a few times and have experimented more than once trying to get my camera phone in the right spot.
Yeah, we're gonna have to change it to traveling Tacky Talk.
Well, that is true. I actually, if I can be someplace and we're willing to chat, I will do it.
How are you doing?
Well, a little exhausted. It's been very busy since I last talked to you last week. I had a friend's wedding over the weekend, so I ended up in Northampton. That was a drive, and then I was in Columbus, Ohio, for the Automobile Innovative Alliance to talk about the future electric vehicles, which was a great conference to be at. We really got updated about the future of not just manufacturing cars, what the new technology looks like, but also the impact it has on the electrical grid system and some macro, as I say, a real macro point of view, which we don't get at our level. And let's be honest about it. I mean, when you're working at our level of government, it can be very provincial, and we're only in our own little world of thinking about how things work. So, it's a good idea for us to get out there to learn about the big picture and see what the rest of the country is doing. In this case, also the rest of the world, and then we can bring that knowledge back to our local level and state level and see what things apply and don't apply.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because, as you're well aware, this coming Sunday, September 24th, Quincy Asian Resources teaming up with Green Energy Consumers to have an electric vehicle test drive day at the South Shore YMCA.
Yeah, well, we did this last year, I believe, at Quincy High School. They did a wonderful job to bring great awareness on electric vehicles and electric bikes. I do understand that not everybody can afford one right now, but I think it's a good idea for everyone to test drive at no cost to you and no commitments to see what the future holds. And should you find yourself in a position to get a new vehicle, obviously we encourage people to use cars with less emissions. But again, it's individual choice. I fully respect that. And I'm fully aware that interest rates have spiked even car loans well past 6%. So, I suspect for at least 2 more years, people are going to stretch out their cars as long as possible, even if it's reaching close of end life. Now, I've already talked this before. It's going to definitely affect home purchases for the next 2 years.
Oh, absolutely. Although just this past week, we saw the Feds left the rates alone this time around.
Yeah, Fed Chief Powell basically left rates alone. It was expected. He did state there will be at least one more hike, which most likely 0.25% sometime before the year's close. It is now September, so that leaves you October, November, December. So the logic dictates is probably going to be another hike in November. One of the interesting things that changed from the Fed's message, and again, they may change the message again in the next couple of months, is their intention not to lower rates to 2024. And they were anticipating maybe doing 3 possible rate reductions. Now they're looking at maybe 2 in 2024. And again, they may change their minds in a couple of months based on the data, but you all see gas prices going up. You saw that you may have seen the press release that the electrical utility companies are doing a 26%, 26% reduction from last year's rates at the same time for your basic service, but it's a slight, I believe, 3% increase on your natural gas service for the 6-month period under basic service and the utilities. So energy is coming down, but you see that gas at the pump is still going up, and oil is about $100 a barrel. So, it isn't as if we're done with inflation yet. Energy, of course, is a big part of inflation prices. And it's going to be in your pocketbook this winter. And student loans come to effect at the beginning of August, so October 1st. And I'm sure the feds will come up with ways for you to defer payment if you qualify, or new payment programs based on income. But, people can be pinched then. And wage inflation is slowing but not stopped. And inflation is coming down. But as I talked all the time here with you, you got to get wages ahead of inflation for people to actually get ahead. And right now, it hasn't quite made the move because wages are dropping, but inflation has not.
Exactly. Yeah, it's simple economics. Supply and demand. If price is going up as fast or faster than you're earning, then you're still going to be left behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, and I think you also see at the grocery market too. I mean, they keep talking about food inflation coming down. It is, but it doesn't count the wage inflation at the supermarket, right? So you're still paying for stuff. The food is maintaining a high value because of the labor costs associated with the business. Same thing as they built in the electrical price, right? Natural gas prices. I mean, all the other costs of doing business is built into your groceries. Same thing at restaurants. So yes, whole food sale prices are declining, but services pricing, like I said, the price of doing business in a supermarket hasn't dropped.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the real mixed messaging that you see in the news that, yeah, food prices dropping. You go to the market. Well, clearly it hasn't dropped a lot or
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
And it's because labor market shortage.
Most, yeah, because they went up so much that even dropping a little bit is still very high.
Absolutely. And
Yeah. Seeing as you're talking about
consumers.
energy, Tacky,
Mhm.
I wonder if you can explain the city council just earlier this week issued a resolve asking for approval of this municipal aggregation program to help lower energy costs. What, I mean, I know that eventually has something to do with the state. What exactly is that?
All right. Municipal aggregation is a creation back from 1999 under when we deregulated electricity and forced the utility companies to divest all the electrical generation, with a couple little exceptions that we've created, including things like the solar panels you see off the expressway, the National Grid gas tanks. That's actually one of the few exceptions regarding allowing utility to do generation. So part of that law was creating municipal aggregation, which allows a municipality to submit an application to DPU to allow it to choose its own electrical generation on the open market. However, you have to be aware of this, that should it pass, you have to opt out. It's an automatic opt in, meaning consumers in Quincy, for example, if it passes, we'll get a letter from the city saying that you can choose to get out. Otherwise, we're forcing you into municipal aggregation. The theory is that on a competitive marketplace for energy, given the size of the customer base and a bidding process, you should get a very good price and hopefully lock into a contract between 1 and maybe 5 years, depending on the decision makers at the municipal level. It has worked well for some communities when energy prices spike, like you saw last year, when you lock into a fixed kilowatt per hour contract. On the flip side, it can hurt you should there be a massive decline in energy prices and you're still locked in at a higher price, which you need some degree of expertise at the municipal level to understand long-term energy markets. But if you just kind of go in there and decide, we're just a bid process and we don't have to think about this and not look at the larger energy market, well, you could actually lose. Your consumers can lose money in the deal because you didn't figure out the aggregate average would be over the time period of the contract that you would have. So right now it's pending at DPU. The state delegation has asked DPU to expedite its review process. It is a quasi-judicial agency. I can't influence the move any faster than asking about it. The council is obviously eager to do this. I can't speak to the specific application because I'm not one to judge if the application is correct. That's the DPU's job to do. So, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. The city gets to choose an energy supply by bid. Hopefully, they are wise enough to hire somebody who actually knows about long-term energy. As you can tell, I know something about something. And you have to opt out if we should be approved and they able to get a long-term energy contract.
But can't an individual customer do that on their own right now?
Absolutely. You have Energy Choice currently since 1999 to choose your own energy supplier. And I do encourage people to shop around. But again, you kind of have to look at your past energy usage on your bill, how many kilowatt hours you use over the past year. Look at what the energy price you got from the utility company, or if you already have a third-party supplier, look at what they provided. Look what what other energy providers provide. You can look it online. They can send you a quote. And again, encourage people to read the whole document. One of the problems that I hear from folks is that they didn't read the entire document about whether there's any variable rates, fuel cost passage, or automatic adjustments down the road, and also auto renewal. This is actually one of the issues I've been working on is better clarity about auto renewal because you gotta know what you're signing. So I do encourage people to shop for energy. I do also express people to be cautious about how to shop for energy, and to get be fully knowledgeable before you sign a contract.
Yeah, it's a great piece of advice. Would an individual consumer get the same rates that the city would?
No,
Okay.
no, because the city would try to sell itself as a bulk contract.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the small residential consumer or even industrial or commercial consumer looking for their own energy supply would be competing against other residential and commercial industrial, depending on what you're trying to do. And there'll be other companies are in your area all competing for the same price. The prices are disclosed on the websites. It's not like they don't know what they're offering each other. It's whether or not they can offer you the best plan, and any additional service. For example, they can offer like a fixed rate for 1 month for like $100. You just pay $100. That's it. But starting month number two, you pay whatever the rate is that you sign a contract. So you're seeing a lot of these things like similar cable TV contracts when we had competitive cable at one time, where they're like, give you 3 months at one rate, and then after that we go back to the rate you get agreed part based on what's there. And again, it would change once the contract's up. The market may change for whether it be windmills or natural gas. It doesn't matter. They're not fixed because the energy company needs to make the money. The debt holders need their payments, and the shareholders have to get paid as well.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. There's so much to it. You really, as you're saying, you really do need to read and understand everything carefully before you sign your name.
Yeah, energy policy is something I've been doing better part of my adult life. I mean, back in the old days, Michael Morrissey, I mean, he chaired government regulations when we actually had a committee called that. And, he championed out the deregulation law that allows you consumer choice, as well as a number of other initiatives, including expanded energy efficiency, greater accountability regarding utility companies on the service qualities, and a number of other things that, you enjoy now that, he worked on, and I was in the office past all those years. So, I also did my time in the AG's office. I was your ratepayer advocate in the AG's office as a class action of residential customers. And obviously I had to learn about rates and science and all that, in addition to the public policy end when I was with Michael Morrissey. And I did a long stint in the legislature as elected 7 years as on the Committee of Telecom, Utilities, and Energy, and also was serving for vice chair for a blink of an eye, it feels like, before I became chair of Consumer Protection Professional Legislature. And as you can tell, I haven't quite let go, because Speaker Mariano, put me in a conference committee last year on energy and climate change. So, I'm not sure what's going to happen to me this year. I've not talked to the speaker about possible conference committee assignments, but clearly, on Beacon Hill, folks know I do know what I'm doing here.
Yes, yeah, and it's a lot to know. And it's important to point out, too, to beware of scrupulous actors in the energy field, right? If folks are coming to your door asking to look at your energy bill, close the door.
Absolutely. You didn't have to show them the energy bill, did not provide them, a driver's license number. I encourage people, if you're uncomfortable with it, take the piece of paper, put it to the side. There'll be information online. You can read the paper, but you shouldn't make any snap decisions, whether it be at the mall or in front of a store, or if they come to your home. I don't encourage snap decisions in energy, because you should be able to shop because there's plenty of games in town.
Sure. Let's talk about the MBTA techie.
Oh boy, I hear your topic.
The governor actually just earlier this week met with the head of the Federal Transit Administration to tell them, hey, we know there's a problem. We're dealing with it.
Well, the feds ain't letting up on us, as you can tell. Given all the problems that I don't have to repeat, you guys all know by watching the news and using the T, public safety is still the #1 priority of the MBTA right now. I know the inconveniences of not being on time, but your choice is derailment or delay. And I hate to put it as simple. A friend asked me about this before, about the speed issues. And, like I said, I was out with Congressman and Senator Keenan some months back, understanding the rail placement. And I don't know how they did it 50 years ago, but, today they test it when they put the rail down. They run the trains over at slow speed to let it settle. They test it again to make sure it's structurally correct and everything's lined up. They run a train again through it to make sure, and it has to be at a slow speed to make sure it settles correctly. If it's not settled correctly, you're going to have a tragedy. That's just the bottom line. And you don't want to hear it, but, I'm not going to test your life against a slowdown. I'm sorry to say that, folks. So, obviously the federal government has the same attitude about train safety and also employee safety. So, I don't envy General Manager Philip Ng whatsoever regarding this, as he's trying to tackle the orange line, the red line in particular, plus any other possible mishaps that may happen. As you all know, Green Line stuff keeps happening just because it's the nature of the Green Line above ground. Well, trying to work on a budget deficit, not just because of reduced ridership, but as we talked earlier, rising costs of doing business, especially electricity. And the MBTA rail system is one of the biggest electric customers in the state. And it doesn't matter if you use competitive supply or not. It's still an enormous power drain. It doesn't matter if it's one customer on the T or 100 people on the T. The energy cost is going to be the same regardless. And people always think, oh, you pack the train all the time. Well, actually, not right now. It's a lot less packed, but still, it is packed compared to pre-COVID, but it's still packed. But I mean, if it's like 11:30 at night, it's not going to seem volume as it does at between 6 and 10 a.m.
Right. So, but if it does use the same amount of energy, right, the rates might be lower at that time. That's the only difference.
The rates might be lower if they have a fixed contract, maybe not. But it's what we call off-peak usage, right? If you use electricity when there's a low usage time period, generally the demand is down and the price also goes down with the demand. High demand, high cost, simple economics. So, it's good to see the governor taking initiative, and the legislature had a Microsoft Teams call with General Manager Ng last week. He gave us some updates that I think you already seen in the news. It seems like we just get the pre-update before it actually hits the press regarding their maintenance issues. We're going to do that every 3 or so months, give or take. But at some point, the Quincy delegation is going to have to see the general manager himself. But they are, working hard to try to keep us updated as much as possible. And I'm also advocating with Senator Keenan and Bruce Ayers, regarding the commuter rail price issue, where they're going to back to full price commuter rail Quincy Center, as opposed to maintaining the light rail price, the subway price, that they've been doing throughout the delay period. So the excuses they say is because some of the terminals open, but the San Antonio isn't open all the time. I just flew out to Columbus on Sunday to go to the electric vehicle conference. The Summit Tunnel was closed. I took the Braintree Express in from Quincy, which I encourage. Go online, you save $1. You don't have to pay 9 versus 10. But it takes another car off the road, and with the Sumner closed, it's all backed up. So at least Logan Express has some ability to use the HOV lane to expedite your travel to Logan.
Can you update us on the status of the supplemental budget bill, Tacky? Any discussion on that?
I have no idea what's going on just yet. We're doing the closeout budget. What? Just tell you guys the truth. I'm going to sit here and just pretend. It is the closeout budget. The fiscal year is closed, as you all know, at the beginning of July and June. But we actually have what we call the final reconciliation, which is done in the month of October. And this is the final accounting of the fiscal year 23's budget. So including the budget includes a number of collective bargaining contracts. I'm very aware of it. I'm getting the emails from public employees. And it's already been baked into the main budget. We just have to authorize its expenditure. So it doesn't really add any more to the budget. It's already baked in. And the governor, obviously, you hear, wants to add another $250 million in one-time funding regarding the migrant emergency housing issue. I just want to remind folks, this is emergency housing, which any of us can access if you're a resident of Massachusetts. It does not apply to public housing. You have to be a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen to apply for public housing. So it doesn't affect that end of the housing assistance. And the speaker's correct and the Senate president's correct. And actually the entire legislature is in the same position, is that we don't have a great understanding about what is really going on and what is their plan moving forward. And I get it. They're drinking on a fire hose. 50 people, 25 to 50 people are averaging showing up at a welcome center and then being sent out to someplace else. But it's going to strain not just our financial resources on the emergency shelter component, but, people need to get fed. People need to get, diapers. People need health care. Many of these folks may not be vaccinated or come with medical conditions. And, I've seen folks at the Eastern Nazarene College. They're pregnant. They need medical care. And I think we're civilized people here. I mean, we're not going to let pregnant women be just kind of left on their own. I mean, we're not going to do that. Uh, so, we want some more clarity about a larger plan. I do understand the feds are a problem here. Again, I still say this over and over again. They treat it as a security problem, not a humanitarian crisis. And we know the feds have money. I mean, you all know that. So they're not really thinking this as such. And I'm a little surprised that the federal delegation hasn't, come out in public and just start, demanding out of the Biden administration cash on this, or at least, make it part of their next appropriation, as we have a potential looming government shutdown again at the Fed level at the end of this month. So I'm surprised we haven't heard a peep about, any congressional person saying, hey, maybe we should put some money in for the migrant situation. It's affecting a lot of states.
Yeah, I guess there was action taken on the expediting work visas, temporary work visas at least, so that will help some.
Yeah, as you all know, we have a labor shortage. These folks are here to get away from a very dangerous crisis that affects them and their families. And work is priority for folks because that's what they need to do if they're going to be able to feed their families in the long run. So, hopefully, the feds make this process acceptable, that we can, help them process this paperwork and then, get folks working. And I'm going to tell you, there ain't no shortage of jobs out there that they can potentially fill.
The president of Ukraine is at the White House today, Tacky.
Well, he's been a little more in the U.S. than he has in the past since the beginning of the war. We all understand beginning of the war, you really kind of got to stay there. It's a solidarity thing. It's important to be commander in chief in the midst of the war zone and whatnot. But I think it's also important for him to do visit countries to update, the progress of the war, from his lips, as opposed to, having one of his lieutenants and generals talk about it or do it through a video call. If he wants our help, he has to come by and tell us what's going on in person to the president and the Joint Chiefs and the defense to explain the progress and no progress. It also keeps in the world stage from a public relations component. He's alive. He's there. They're not taking him out. And I think if the Russians take him out now, I think it's going to cause a different type of international crisis that really, Vladimir Putin doesn't really want to face. I mean, this is the man, asking from North Korea for weapons now. I mean, really. I mean, he's not in good shape. He's asking North Korean for weapons. So, I think this is good. I mean, Ukraine needs to, leave their country sometimes to update the rest of the world what's going on. And it's good public relations for them at home to see, their leader, with the leader of the largest economy and the mightiest military on the planet, standing next to him and show their solidarity.
Anything exciting in the district we should let folks know about?
It's been pretty quiet in September. I mean, October things will pick up a bit on a few different levels. Obviously, about the electric vehicle test drive. I'm actually working on a project on getting energy inefficient appliances off the street, so to speak, that are obsolete. I'm hoping we'll get that done sometime in mid-October. I don't want to overcommit to this just yet. We're still trying to get a permit from the city. There's a lot of hoops working through, but National Grid and a few other companies are going to be coming out of Quincy to host this drive-by drop-off event and talk about energy efficient appliances and how you can get rebates and mass save and all that. But let's not jump the gun just yet. I'm still in the process of helping them out on getting the permits and whatnot. Hopefully we'll have it at Quincy High School parking lot. For me, it's not in district, but October is actually very busy month for Asian countries. Korean Foundation Day, the foundation of Korea. They actually can trace their history back to the very first day of Koreans being Koreans there. And it's called Foundation Day. And then there'll be a couple of other Korean celebrations around the state on that, and including one at the State House I'm hosting. And Taiwan does what we call 10-10 Day. It's the day that Sun Yat-sen removed the emperor of China and installed the First Republic. So, that coming out October 10th, the Taiwanese government historically does that event. And then Swahili is a domestic violence organization targeting, in particular, South Asians. And we've had some chats with them, and given the larger South Asian community in South Shore, how can they work with local organizations, and they have some events coming up in October as well. So, some stuff at home, some stuff not at home, but it's going to be busy. And I have a public hearing scheduled for October 2nd, and 2 weeks later will be October 16th, 14 plus 2. So October 16th, October 2nd, I have a public hearing set up on the committee level. And I got to set up some executive sessions as well. I got to start getting bills out of committee if I can get an agreement with the Senate on how to get this done. And I also got my own interesting bills at some point. I got to figure out which one chairmen are kind of liking. And if other chairmen like it, then I have a chance to push it.
Okay, so is the stalemate between the House and Senate still in full force?
Well, I've not seen smoke out of the pyre, so to speak, if you know what that reference makes. As the color of smoke has changed. I'm not clear what's going on still.
Okay.
I'm still not clear. Speaker and the Senate President did have dinner, as was mentioned by the Senate President on the record on Channel 5. That was confirmed as a real thing.
Okay. In person?
That was in person. It wasn't a video dinner. The outcome of which we'll wait and see what happens as the session moves forward and the House and Senate leadership sets up the formal session schedule and sets up the agenda for essentially, a quick run, because we go back into recess after the third Friday in November.
Okay.
That's only like 2 months away.
Yep. It's coming up quick.
This is a job where you blink and suddenly you're almost at Thanksgiving. I mean, it's so busy. As you heard, I've already had oops, sorry guys, that's me tapping the visor. I've already had a very busy week. I'm flat out until Columbus Day, and then I'll blink again, and next thing you know, it's Halloween.
One thing that is happening this Saturday is Coast Sweep on Wollaston Beach. It got delayed because of Hurricane Lee last Saturday. Thankfully, we didn't have a hurricane, but they're going to try and get it in this coming Saturday.
Oh, it's supposed to rain Saturday.
Don't tell them that, Jackie.
So my weather app tells me I'll be at the Democratic State Convention on Saturday. The Democratic Convention on a non-election year, in terms of non-endorsement of candidates year, is held in the fall now. It used to be held in May, actually June, just like the normal regular one. But since I think like 6 years now, they moved it, the non-nominating year, into the fall. So I'll be at Lowell, as if I couldn't be busy enough. So tomorrow I'll be, what am I doing tomorrow? Building Inspector Association South Shore wants to see me tomorrow. I got to see them. Obviously, I got to get work done in the middle by phone, as you can tell I'm in the car, or I'm reading documents when I get a half a breath when I'm not driving. And then I'm going to help the Low in the evening. Tomorrow, there's some folks in the voting community who would like to see me and chat about issues that are important to them. And then go to the Democratic State Convention on Saturday morning, see South Shore Democrats, getting together and talk about important issues to the Democratic State Committee and the party in general. And probably make it back sometime in late afternoon Saturday. So, and then Sunday, my good friend Keiko Oro, who's a former rep, has an opera based on Madame Butterfly. It's a new take on an old opera, old premise. You guys probably know Madame Butterfly, and there's actually a lot of societal biases that came out of that that you may not be aware of, but you still believe it, because that's how this cultural, some of these cultural things happen, is that creates perceptions in the mind and how people are and who they are through entertainment and media. But they're providing a new take on this to kind of modernize it a bit from an Asian American perspective on Sunday. So I'll be attending that. And Keiko's an old friend. She's a former rep for Lakeville, Keiko Oro. So her husband's actually her replacement in the legislature when she left. So, I'm trying to meet both my work obligations and my friend obligations as much as possible. And tonight, I'm going to be out with Senator John Cronin my co-chair from Fitchburg for dinner, and we have a list of bills that my staff has printed out for us to review as part of our dinner meeting.
Always something going on.
It's always something going on. Although I do like seeing my co-chairs over the actually quite a few years I've been the chair of this committee, because I think it's get a lot of work done sitting across from each other at a table and just kind of like, talking. And then a lot of ideas come up from just a casual conversation, over dinner time. So, from my standpoint, I still prefer in-person conversation, especially, at the legislative level as we're trying to work out agreements and, share ideas on different policy pieces before the committee.
Yeah, well, that's preferential. You probably saw earlier this week the latest MCAS results came out indicating, the loss of learning that took place during the pandemic when kids were learning over their computers.
Yeah, there's been studies actually very quickly nationally by a lot of universities about the impact on COVID through that K through 12 level in particular, and the impact on their education, but also impact socialization. And also people that never came back to school, which, as we talked during COVID, was a great concern by legislators about what happened, to kids that never returned to the public school system. They go to private school, did they drop out of school? What happened? Because it isn't like, we're a police state. It isn't like, people, the school department knows where your child is every minute, right? You take a kid out of enrollment and they didn't call you, but you don't have to pick up the phone, right? And, maybe like I said, maybe go to private school and they just dropped out completely. And
ask you to give out your contact information, please.
Yeah, a little short and day because I'm in the car and hopefully the background noise wasn't too bad. Yeah, have the windows down because it's loud. It's hot and it's loud outside. So again, you guys hopefully know by now, 617-722-2370, 617-722-2370. That's the office. We are staffed. But, we can't pick up two phones at once. So, it's Jerry Paracella's office, by a classmate when I came in, and you got to wait for him to go by. Then you get my series of numbers. Tackey.chan@mahouse.gov, tackey.chan@mahouse.gov. That's my email. It also is the same email I received testimony for the committee, given in fact a couple of hearings are coming up. It's starting to fill up with testimony. So you can drop me a line. I'll try to find your email, and I'll make sure that, we'll read it. And constituent service first, constituent service first, constituent service first. It's not a complicated world for me. State Representative Tackey Chan Facebook. There'll be some postings here there of my comings and goings. And tackeychan.org is the website I use again for reference pages for people to call call agencies and whatnot, as opposed to have to call me first. And you have malegislature.gov, which is the state's official website, malegislature.gov, the legislative website. You can look at bills, you can track the hearings, and our hearings are recorded on Microsoft Teams, so you can watch the replay if you really want to. And of course, stay tuned with QATV and Joe, First Thing in the Morning's podcast. And, you can find me in your favorite podcast app.
Absolutely. Or just stop by the State House.
You can do that too. We are open for tours, and there's no restrictions. And I can happily say the Ashburn Park section of the State House is now open. They finished it right before 9/11, the renovations in time for 9/11 Memorial. We've been living with no second access to the State House pretty much from the spring on. Actually, I think from the winter on. So it's great that we have our second entrance open, and it is a fully handicapped accessible entrance. So if you're visiting, you can be mindful that you just don't have to go down to Hooker Statue, which is on Beacon Street, but you can come around the code and go to Bowden Street and access it from the Ashburn entrance.
Good to know. We'll let you get back on the road, Tackey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. I'll see you next week.